So recently I decided to go to Warsaw, Poland. I had been in Poland before, but this time I decided to visit capital, the Warsaw, and this, as you can see, is not Warsaw if you know the city. This is Riga, crossing the Southern Bridge by public transport, and I really like this view of the Riga skyline going down from the Southern Bridge towards the center of the city. The public transport situation in Riga is not that good at the moment. During the COVID time, some services were cut down, so now there are less buses going, and especially from my side of the city, the airport. After a few years, hopefully this area around railway station will change due to Rail Baltica project. Although currently nothing much can be seen yet, the embankment here is still where it has stood for the 100 years or so, and some freight trains are going past us, and I'm actually at the bus stop where we have the airport bus number 22. As you can see, there's a small symbol of an airplane there. So yeah, I was flying on the cheap on Ryanair to Warsaw Modlin airport, like the second biggest airport of Warsaw, which primarily takes the Ryanair planes and some other during the summer months, the holiday season. And the plane took off rather late, and I was there around 1 a.m. in the morning, everything around in darkness. So I had booked this sleeping pod in the airport, as you can see here, Modlin Airport Sleep and Go. That's how it was called. 6 capsules there. You can book one of them and you can sleep there. I hadn't stayed in something like that before, so for me it was interesting. You had to enter your phone number and some other data and you could just unlock the capsule. So I decided, yeah, I'll stay the night there, and early morning then I can take the bus to Warsaw. But inside, yeah, there was the screen, some entertainment, some ways to close the window, some small desk, but I wouldn't say I was happy with this service, but maybe I will talk about it a bit later. Early morning there are buses that take you to Modlin railway station. This is one of them, Solaris bus, as we have in Riga public transport. You can buy a combined bus and train ticket, and then you board this train which goes to Warsaw Central Station from Modlin railway station. And this is the so-called ELF train made by PESA, Polish train manufacturer. ELF just means electric low floor, so it's a normal commuter train with low floor all through the train, although there are some sections which are raised, but not by steps as in some regional trains, but they are just elevated. And yes, then you can just see the countryside of Poland going by. Oh, it's more like suburbs of Warsaw. Although we are quite some distance away from Warsaw, I think it took 50 minutes by train to go to Warsaw Central Station, and then 10 minutes by bus, so overall an hour or more to get from the Modlin airport to Warsaw. But we passed the big national stadium and now we are crossing the river and already entering the main city center of Warsaw. The thing about Warsaw is that a lot of it was destroyed in Second World War, so today we have Soviet streets here, the grand big Soviet streets with the old commie blocks and some skyscrapers or high-rises, the modern ones, dotted in the landscape here. But one thing I also don't like is those tunnels under the streets, as in a lot of places, especially like Soviet cities, where you can't cross the street, and near the central station it was like that you cannot cross the street at street level. You have to go down these tunnels. Like here at this street, at the end of it there's a metro entrance, and then again you need to go down to cross the street, and it's annoying and it's bad. Although, as we can see, there's a lot of bikes that you can rent and go around the city, and there's these big streets provide a lot of room for bicycle paths, so it's a really nice place, I guess, to go by bike through the center But yes, it's pretty much the very center of Warsaw. It's just commie blocks, these Soviet commie blocks in rather good shape, restored and nice. Plus the skyscrapers and high-rises and business centers that have been built in the last 15 years or so. So in a sense, it's kind of like East Berlin. I think when I visited Berlin, it was kind of like that in the eastern part of Berlin. Very similar vibe, and yes, I like that. The center seems to be that it has been renovated. A lot of streets have been recently renovated, and even though this architecture may be kind of imposing and these streets are huge, no, not this one. This was actually rather nice, but there's a really good infrastructure, and you can see that the people in Warsaw care about the city. I like the fact that there's some small gardens between some buildings. Here, I guess it's some kind of private initiative. Maybe this business center owns this garden and it's their land and they built it here. But it's nice, and I think the Riga needs some more of these like nature oases in the center of the city. And in general, yeah, I get this Soviet East Berlin vibe a bit here, because as I heard also, whenever one of these old Soviet buildings loses people and people leave, they don't want to live in these Soviet buildings in the center, they just can tear it down and build a new skyscraper. So I guess it's kind of changes also how the city looks like. And Poland, of course, manufactures a lot of things. The train which I use to get to the central station, and these PESA trams also, and nice that they are going around the city and they look really good. A lot of actually good bicycle infrastructure in the center, although these streets are huge, so you have a lot of room for separated bicycle lanes. One more thing is that I got to this park. There's this park nearby, Ogrodsaski, or Saxon Garden, and as I thought, it's really, I later read it up, it's really old park from late 17th century, I believe, destroyed in World War II, but later restored after the war. And I was just thinking in the terms of like in Riga, we often have these fancy projects for parks and everything that we never have money to build them, so maybe we can do it a bit simpler, easier, like this park. Just some walkways, some trees, and it's nice vibe. And here actually there was the Saxon Palace and some other palace, I believe, but they were also destroyed in Second World War. So now it's more like a huge square there, and the tomb of the unknown soldier. The tradition to commemorate unknown soldiers fallen in the war started after First World War. I believe, was it Britain or France, but yeah, in one of those countries. And Poles also have their own here, with the fallen in their famous battles from all the wars that they had in the history. And this square is also a relic from World War II, and everything was destroyed here. Previously there was a palace, I believe, here, and now it's just an empty square. So now we are ready in the Old Town part of Warsaw, and it also has an interesting story. Because again, it didn't look like that for the whole of history. Again, World War II destroyed most of this. This is how it looked after World War II, basically. The city was completely wiped out of existence and everything was destroyed. So essentially most of what we can see here was rebuilt after the war, and the works went on through the 60s, and I believe it was written that they finished the royal castle only in the beginning of the 80s, and this reconstruction was even acknowledged as really fantastic work at recreating the old buildings and the street network, the medieval street network. So it's now a UNESCO heritage site commemorating just the will of the Warsaw people to rebuild it and to preserve it for the future. So yeah, it's a wonderful monument to what people can do, although most of the city was still destroyed and now is filled with Soviet architecture, but the very core, the old town area, so to say, it remains as it was before, renovated after the war. There's some nice differences, like the height differences, like being a medieval town, I believe it was advantageous to be on the hill in those times to protect yourself against enemies, so it's kind of the other part of the city is downhill and this other part of the city is up on a hill. And yes, then there's the Vistula River promenade, which at this side looks kind of like the Daugava promenade in Riga, nothing much to do. On the other part there has been some renovation works, as I see that they built some kind of buildings there for cafes or maybe for concerts for summertime, but there's still, we have like some nice benches to sit, but rather small trees and rather barren at the moment. And here near it again, one thing that I don't like is that there's the street crossing only on 3 sides, so there's also some things that sometimes these small things that I noticed in a couple of places in Warsaw, although I can see that there was great care in the city for infrastructure in general. Of course, they also don't have all the money in the world. And this was a street on which my apartment was located, so it's going uphill towards the old town. So I was staying rather close to it. And it's just a wonderful street. I really like this change of elevation when you can go up the hill or down the hill. I liked it especially in Budapest when I was there and any other place. It's just interesting to see the city from uphill looking downwards. Vilnius or is another example of that, where you have these hills and you can look downwards on the city. Here it's kind of some flowers, also getting ready for summer. And right on the other side of the street there's also some kind of a Soviet park, a little park. When I was there, looked around, and again the same thing about Riga, that maybe we don't need to spend a lot of money on parks, but just that we would have more of them in all parts of the city. So even if it's just some cheaper materials used, or just getting Soviet parks in order. And all around the place there, I was just looking around the center at that part, and I saw that there were some gardens there. Or in this case, it's just a street going again towards the center. But here I saw that they have this bicycle path just on one side and walkway on the other side, so it's also just a cheap solution. But yeah, the problem in Riga is that we don't have a lot of these wide streets in the center. So here in Warsaw at least they have this younger Soviet-built streets which are more wide, and you can use the walkways also for bicycle paths. But in Riga also we could use a lot more of that. Here is the main street going towards the old town, or in the old town. It's again a good practice to close down the street on holidays so that people can use it as a pedestrian street, which was kind of started in Riga with Tervat Street, but somehow it didn't happen in the coming years. So that's it for part 1. I will hopefully put together a second part.